Well, good morning, everybody. Let's call this meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gonzalez.
Here.
McCann,
Present.
Donovan,
Here.
Montgomery Step. Coble.
Here.
Leba Gonzalez,
Leba Gonzalez here.
Dillard,
Here.
Gastel,
Here.
Bush is absent, Frank,
Here.
Marino is absent, Ela Rivera is absent, Campillo is absent, Whitburn,
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And as we start a new year, I'd like to welcome Chula Vista Council Member Alonso Gonzalez. Great to have you here. San Diego Council Member Raul Campillo will also be joining us shortly. Glad to have both of them joining us on the dais here. Let's begin with non-agenda public comment. This provides 2 minutes for anybody who would like to comment on something that is not on today's agenda, but is within the purview of MTS. Clerk, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
We do, we have several. Jared Caswell, please make your way to the podium.
Hey, how you guys doing? Good morning. Hopefully you can hear me. So how you doing, Steve? We met at the ribbon cutting for the 227. So I just want to touch base really quick. I am a resident of Imperial Beach. I kind of stay in tune. I run a shuttle program. I actually have a permit through MTS to do that for Imperial Beach. So I talk to a lot of residents. Usually I do about 1,000 rides a month. But going back to the bus currently was going down 3rd and Seacoast, and you guys are gonna switch it to 9th. Nobody wants it going down 9th. 9th is going to be a single lane with bike lanes on the side. So we're going to end up just fighting from 9th down to 13th. In reality, and I hate to say this, nobody's riding the 227 ever. I know you guys saying you're going to have data coming in. You guys need to vote on it, I think, next week. If you guys don't vote to get it out of IB by next week, we're going to be stuck with it until September. And right now we have about 50 people showing up at our council meetings and also other meetings that happen for conversation about this. And it's just only going to bring out more residents that are against it because it's such a big bus going by. I want to touch base on what somebody said last night. There was a gentleman that goes to New York City. Forget what part, just say Washington Street. There's 190 buses that go down that street a day. Our Seacoast has 186 buses that go down a day. We are Imperial Beach. There's 26,000 residents. Nobody comes from the border to Imperial Beach. They maybe go to Iris. That being said, here's your solution. Put a call button in at the bus stops, like a crosswalk button. You put a call button in. Iris is 10 minutes away. Palm's 7 minutes away. You guys will cut your time in half. These are electric buses. They can only travel so far in a full charge. So you won't have to fill them in with gas or anything like that. As a pedestrian sits down at the bus stop, they push the button, you leave out of Palm or Iris, you come and pick them up. You'll be there within 7 minutes. They'll be back within 7 minutes. And instead of building housing at those places, put in work out of there. Thank you.
Frank Hogan, please make your way to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Frank Hogan. I was a top contributor in MTS IT for over 7 years until December 22. I received 7 exceeds expectations performance reviews and have over 25 years information technology experience. I want to provide expertise addressing claims appearing in the press by CIO Emily Outlaw that Jabber was private and she was being requested to illegally hack into it. Neither is true. Users can have no more expectation of privacy in Jabber than they would with any other tools like company email and web browsers. Like web browsers, there is an easily obtainable history file in Jabber. No hacking or illegal activity is required. Companies routinely examine persons' web history, email, and other company-owned messaging like Jabber. Her refusal to provide the Jabber message history is an admission of a refusal to perform a routine function of her job. Another routine function for all government employees or officials is to promptly report suspected illegal activities or requests to all who might listen, including this board, and not wait for over 7 months to be used later as a vehicle to mitigate imminent justified dismissal and leverage a king's ransom of severance. The board should take this into account when determining how generous they may be with taxpayer dollars in the settlement of her misleading and incendiary claims. Thank you all, and thank you for your service.
Truth, please make your way to the podium.
All right, a lot of absentees today. That's what I noticed first thing off. Okay, what about the MTS minutes, Stephen? That's the only thing that's going to ensure our meeting managed at deadline at 12 p.m., right? But, Nora thought that at Sandag, and that failed miserably. It's still failing. But, if you guys want, I can actually ask Sandag for a non-broken timer. You want me to get that timer replaced? I can do it. I can go there. I can advocate. Subterfuge Steve, you said before that MTS's Operation Shakedown for Fair Recovery got a guy wanted for sexual assault with a minor. But what does that tell you about who's allowed to board the public transit in the first place? Got more examples for you. On the trolley, a guy told me he stole from every Walmart and Target along the trolley lines. He literally showed me the bag he stole, the clothes he stole, and the knives he stole that he tried to sell me for $7. Very tempting. He said he probably stole over $1 million of merch. The trolley is a getaway car. Congratulations. Story 2. On the trolley, a young guy talks to himself about seeing sheriffs before they see him. Then a homeless guy gets on and bugs a homeless woman. Both guys start yelling at each other about knowing people in the pen, being from Shelltown, and how they'll meet each other in downtown later to fight. No transit security in sight. That's the commonplace occurrence that makes people not want to do business with MTS. And yes, there's more security, but still not enough. And they mostly just collect the tolls from people and back out they go. That's a failure on security, Steve. That's your perception right there. And last story. The front entrance to this building was closed. I asked an MTS security guy,
30
what's up?
seconds left.
And he didn't even know what an MTS board meeting is. Isn't that wonderful? I think that actually kind of describes MTS in a nutshell and the public transit. So where did I go? The employee entrance. Thank you for that. I got to be a VIP. You guys want to know a fun fact? I got time. I did 154 meetings last year. Isn't that crazy? How much money did I make, do you think? 0. And public transit, how much is that? 0 too, right? I think.
Has expired.
Thank you.
Alex Wong, please unmute yourself now.
At November's meeting, board member Elo Rivera asked, will the People Mover be the airport transit option that benefits MTS the most? As data researcher for Ride SD, I can answer that question, and the answer is a resounding yes. Consider the airport trolley's fatal flaw. It would merge onto the existing blue and green line tracks. In other words, between Santa Fe Depot and Hawthorne, the blue, green, and airport trolleys would share a single pair of tracks. This would create a bottleneck that would likely permanently limit green line frequencies to every 15 minutes. By contrast, if the People Mover is built, the green line will be able to double frequencies from 15 to 7.5 minutes because an APM would not share tracks with any existing trolley lines, thus freeing up track capacity to maximize green line frequency. This higher frequency is crucial for MTS to capture ridership from transit-oriented mega projects in Mission Valley. The neighborhood is growing into a mixed-use area, allowing residents to work, shop, and play without leaving the area. The number of short 10-15 minutes trips the trolley could serve will explode, but only with far more frequent green line service, because no one will wait up to 15 minutes for a 10-minute ride across Mission Valley. They'll drive instead, further worsening traffic. Also consider that the automated People Mover is driverless, which will minimize operating costs for MTS, make the People Mover immune from transit driver shortages, and make 24/7 airport transit service more viable. If you have further questions regarding airport transit, please email me at alex@ridesd.org. Thank you.
Robert Douthat, please unmute yourself now.
Good morning. Hope everyone can hear me. I'm commenting about the 227 bus in Imperial Beach. I live on 3rd Street, so I have been very impacted by the addition of that bus, to the extent of 80 buses a day, every 15 minutes, 20 hours a day. If there were people on that bus, I would probably try to put up with it and just be quiet. But the bus is empty. You're going to find that data coming up soon. I'm asking that you measure the data in Imperial Beach, not just the people getting on in San Ysidro and going to the Iris transfer station. That you actually get data for the bus here in IB because I see it every day going by my house every 15 minutes and it is empty. And your bus drivers joke about it. Our entire community jokes about it. And you're wasting our money, taxpayer money. And now you're going to ask for a 0.5-cent tax increase this fall. So I just want to make you aware that the next step is to go to the press and let them know you're wasting this money down here. And I don't know if people are going to vote to give you more money when you're
30
wasting
seconds
it
left.
down here. Thank you.
The original DRA, please unmute yourself now.
So what I feel like is, we don't have a lot of people riding the transit, right? And we have to get them into that and out of their cars, or walking and biking. But I feel like we're not making it fun enough. We should be incentivizing people to actually want to ride the public transit and or just walk or bike. So I don't know if we could look into doing something like a huge amusement park. Like we need to be looking into roller coasters and whatnot. And then, like swings, or they have moving sidewalks. Those have been around since the 1800s, probably before that. And so that's kind of fun because then you're just constantly moving. And then if people have to wait, we need to start thinking about how can we help them during that time? So I don't know if we could bring in like Blue Beam and show, just some like crazy stuff in the sky. I mean, we could bring aliens in and have people, see that. That would be interesting because you could even have UFOs going around, like do something, and like, because I mean, we have the technology, and I just feel like if we want to get people into this, I mean, new way of living in our own 15-minute cities, I just feel like we need to do something to incentivize the people so they're just like, they don't want to do anything but ride that public transit, right? I mean, could you imagine? Then we got everybody in lockstep with what we want to do. And so like, what are some other things? I don't know, like, you could do like dodgeball. That might be
30 seconds
fun.
left.
I mean, because we could play with you guys. That would be interesting. And then we could just see whoever wins then gets to be in charge. That would kind of be fun too, right? Because it's like, it's all a game anyway. But I just think the more fun we make it, I mean, people are not going to want to leave that amusement park. They're not going to want to leave their 15-minute city. And, so it's just like, how cool is that going to be? And then like, what else? Puppets. I don't know. That might be fun, but people
Your
already
time has
puppet you
expired.
around.
That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Item number 3 is for the board to take action to elect a chair pro tem and to make committee appointments. At our board meeting in November, 7 members of this board volunteered to serve on an ad hoc committee to prepare a nominating slate for the full board's consideration today. That ad hoc committee consisted of board members Dillard, Donovan, Ela Rivera, Gastel, Hall, Vice Chair Goebel, and myself. For the board's consideration, the committee put forward the slate that is included in your meeting materials. Member Gastel.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the MTS representative to Sandag Regional Planning Committee, Patricia Dillard and I want to switch spots and have her be the representative, me be the alternate. If that's okay with everyone.
Okay, so under Sandag Regional Planning Committee, reverse those two. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Okay. And Member Dillard is okay with that. All right. Okay, so we have made a note of that. Member McCann.
Yes, on the Public Safety Committee, Carolina Chavez from the city of Chula Vista is no longer on that. Obviously, we have a new great council member, Alonso Gonzalez, and I think he would be willing to serve on that, but I would see if we could make that change.
Thank you, Member
Thank
McCann.
you.
Member Gonzalez, would that be?
I concur.
Okay. All right, we'll make a note of that for the board's consideration here. All right, we've got a couple of other edits since the ad hoc committee put together this list, again because of some changes on the board. So for the MTS Executive Committee, as it is listed right now, Member Frank's alternate is listed as Vice Chair Goebel. However, Vice Chair Goebel is already on the executive committee himself, since he's the vice chair. So Member Hall has offered to serve as Member Frank's alternate instead, if the board desires. And then the other edit is for the Sandag board. As Member McCann pointed out, former board member Carolina Chavez is no longer a primary board member. She is listed as the first alternate. Member Dillard was nominated to be the second alternate, so we could nominate Member Dillard to be the first alternate to that, again, if the board desires. With that, let's go ahead and allow the... Sure, we can add a second alternate.
I'd like to be considered for second alternate.
Okay,
The reason is I know with Santee, also, so the mayor may be out of town, and then we have another person missing, and we actually have put 3 people on both the MTS board and the Sandag board, so I think that would be advisable.
okay, I'll make a note of that. All right, we'll let the, yes.
Is it possible you can possibly show that so we can see? Do you have that like on a spreadsheet or chart as far as, oh, you do?
So if on your, okay. And then you can also access it on your digital agenda. If you click on item number 3, you can scroll down and it's the attachment on your digital agenda, item number 3. But we'll go over this again with the edits. If there are no further immediate comments on this, we'll let the board mull this while we go ahead and take public comment. Clerk.
Truth, please make your way to the podium.
Is this another 2 minutes? Could it be? This is supposed to be a miracle. We'll see. I'll make a cut. For Chair Pro Tem, I'd recommend either Ron, maybe Vivian, John, or even Paloma if she wasn't an alternate. That's simply by judging people by their level of knowledge of public transit, their honesty about the current status of public transit, and by the content of their character, the most important trait many people are missing, character. Close seconds would be Patricia or Kaylin. Maybe Raul, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. If possible, I'd like to see that the executive committee members are not automatically members on the audit oversight committee, because that verges into conflict of interest territory. For appointments, I think we need a new chair, vice chair, and pro tem, all new, AKA the current people have done a horrible job. For all committees, even though Sean has some public transit knowledge, he lacks character. And so he should be disqualified from being on any committee or any board, and he continues to prove that every single meeting I go to with him on it. I've got no problem with Matthew as the Sandag rep, but due to perceived conflicts of interest, I'd prefer Patricia or Kaylin instead. I heard Patricia on the Sandag Regional Planning Committee. I don't know, sounds good to me. Why not? One of these days I'll participate in that, and then we'll see what my judgment is. Alonzo on public safety, I really do not know much about you. I know about everybody else on that Chula Vista City Council.
30
How about you?
seconds left.
Let's see, Sandag, Patricia first alternate, second alternate, Ron. I think that sounds okay to me. Ron, or you could switch them, might be fine. And if board policy 22 references the Brown Act, then you guys need to always have 2 minutes, because that's reasonable speaking time under the law. Otherwise, you're actually in violation of the Brown Act, which is the same thing at Sandag with a Sandag 60. MTS minute, Sandag 60. I love to reference them both. Thank you.
The original DRA, please unmute yourself now.
Honestly, it doesn't even matter who you guys elect to be on all these boards and committees and whatnot, because the same agenda is going to be played out either way. And that's unfortunate because, you know, the people suffer due to the actions that you guys take across the board at all of your other boards and committees that you're on. And you have to do it ancestrally, because otherwise the agenda wouldn't go through. So everybody's in lockstep basically. And if you get out of line, just like when the people come and bring information that you guys don't like to hear because it is calling you out for what you're actually doing, which is being in line with a globalist elite entity that's never been elected that is deciding things that are going on for us in our communities. And then when we want to have a say in anything, it doesn't matter. You just want to shut people up. But if someone is on a board and they have any kind of dissenting opinion, as you can see on Sandag, they are, treated the same way. I mean, not as bad as the people, but along those lines. And so you all have to be in lockstep with your opinions, and because otherwise, you wouldn't be there. That's what your job is to push this and get people, into their little enslavement. And it's kind of sad because I think that you guys, a lot of you think that you're outside of that you're not going to be, that you're not being used to push us into this, but that you will also face the consequences of what you
30
have
seconds,
done
30 seconds left.
to do this to the people. And so it's sad because, the people have allowed this to happen because we haven't been, many people haven't been holding you accountable. And then, so when people do, it doesn't do well with us. But if everybody did it, we could take our authority back, because you guys don't have the authority. You just think that you do because we have stepped back, and it's time for the people to actually take their communities back instead of letting
Your
these.
time has expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk. All right, the slate as it stands at the moment is for Chair Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp to be reelected to continue in that role. The other edits that have been made so far, or at least suggested nominations that have been made so far for the board's consideration, are for the MTS Executive Committee to have Ron Hall be Kaylin Frank's alternate. For the MTS Public Security Committee, replace Carolina Chavez with member Alonso Gonzalez. For the Sandag Board, to make member Dillard the first alternate and member Hall the second alternate. And for the Sandag Regional Planning Committee, to make member Dillard the committee representative and member Gastel the alternate. Member Campillo has not been assigned to a committee, so if you are interested, we have availability slots that we could fill on the Budget Development Committee or the Public Security Committee. So if you know that you would like to serve on one of those, you can let us know that now, or you could circle back with us and we can do that later. We're going to want to take nominations from the floor if there are any. And I also want to see if the board is inclined to move forward now, or if anybody wants us to trail this item until later in the agenda so that they could see the full slate printed out with the edits. We can do that. We could trail the item, or we could move forward. I will suggest that we move forward unless I see somebody wants to trail the item.
I'm fine with moving forward. I'll make a motion.
Okay. Let me first ask if there are any nominations from the floor. That is part of our required process. If there are any nominations from the floor, again, any nominations from the floor before I close nominations. Nominations are now closed. We have a motion from Member Hall to approve the slate as put together by the Ad Hoc Nominating Committee with the edits suggested here today. Is there a second to that motion? Second. That's a second from Vice Chair Goebel. Any further discussion on the election of a Chair Pro Tem and the slate of committee members and outside agency appointments? Seeing no further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll?
Gonzalez?
Yes.
McCann?
Aye.
Donovan?
Yes.
Montgomery Stepp?
Yes.
Goebel?
Yes.
Leiber Gonzalez?
Yes.
Dillard?
Yes.
Gastel?
Yes.
Bush is absent. Frank?
Yes.
Moreno?
Moreno, yes.
Elo Rivera?
Yes.
Campillo?
Yes.
Whitburn? Hall?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with one member absent.
Thank you very much, Clerk. All right, let's move on to our consent items, which are items 4 through 12. Clerk, is there any public comment on the consent items?
We do. Truth, please make your way to the podium.
All right, once again, 2 minutes. Let's take advantage of it, even though I wrote 60 seconds worth. Item 4, instead of the minute saying anecdotal account, it'd be more accurate to say damning account of security concerns is what I said. Item 5, over $2 million for new power substations. It's taken over 30 years to update this stuff. It's no wonder the trolleys constantly have electrical outages. Figures. Item 7, Steve, even with passenger revenue up, the numbers say you guys are still spending too much by $474,000. That sounds like a perception of staying on budget. Item 8, over $871,000 for communication components. That makes sense for broken trolley time signs. I'm very glad about that. But communication components is ironic when usually I only get an MTS minute to speak. Item 9, over $778,000 for 174 trash cans. If this means that MTS workers will no longer have to separate human waste from organic waste, I don't know, maybe they're the same thing, I'm not a professional, then I approve and want to see these trash cans at every MTS stop and station. I mean, no brainer, that should have been done from day one. Item 11, the Sandag Transportation Committee said future ads will finally stop blocking the bus windows. I hope that's true, and it should also be true for the trolleys. I'd also prefer that alcohol not be advertised, but I would like to see more outreach to local businesses and events for advertisements, because that's a lot more positive than just drink, people, especially when you got
30 seconds
addiction
left.
abound. And item 12, about $100,000 a year for another grant analyst. That means MTS could go broke just trying to get money. Item 6, over $266,000 to Motorola for radios. Transit security need these things to radio when there's another drugged out, knocked out person riding. And item 10, you know, if you wouldn't have all of this electric transit, you could save a lot of money, especially on this wall. Graffiti's
Your
going to
time
go
has
on it. Might want to get a
expired.
mural.
The original DRA, please unmute yourself now.
Okay, so I don't know what we're doing here with these trash receptacles. They have smart technology in them, and the more smart technology we bring in, the worse things get for people. They actually emit radiation, I'm sure, just like any kind of smart meter or whatever. And so I don't think that we need to be spending more money to bring in smart technology. It also makes people's jobs obsolete when we do that, just like a self-checkout and stuff like that. It seems all nice, but in reality, it's just taking somebody's job and also, causing more trouble with people's health. But this wall modification that you're doing, I mean, 24 inches is going to be reduced, and that is $2 to $25,450.83 an inch. That's a lot of money to spend per inch on the wall. So I don't know if you guys can find somebody else. And then this whole revenue ad thing, I don't know why you would be, advertising alcohol and then on the same hand being like, but we're also promoting safe drinking. What you should be putting on those ads is that the fact that people are being injected with HIV, with the bioweapons that you guys are promoting as something that is going to help somebody's health, right? Even though people are dropping dead. So it would be like a PSA to look into that
30
before
seconds
you
left.
inject yourself with something that you don't know what's in it. People would rather, be more concerned about what they put in their vehicle as far as gas goes before they look at what they put in their body. And you're doing people a disservice by, getting money off of these ads for alcohol when you could be doing something to save the people's lives. But, of course, we don't want to tell people the truth, because then it would show that what you guys are doing is being engaged in genocide. And
Your time has expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
I'd like to move to approve the consent items.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Gastel.
I will second that.
All right, we have a second by Member McCann. Any discussion? Member Moreno?
Yes, thank you. I'm supportive of the motion before us, but I also wanted to commend staff on item number 9. I did see that there was quite a bit of back and forth to the good of MTS. So kudos to staff for doing that. I really do appreciate that. That concludes my comments.
All right, thank you very much, Member Moreno. Any further discussion by the board? I want to second what Member Moreno had to say about item number 9, that contract award for new trash receptacles with Big Belly Solar. You may recall that in that customer satisfaction survey that we recently conducted, one of the most important things that customers said that they wanted to see was a cleaner transit system. And that was also something that was brought up in the social equity listening tour that we had. People wanted to see an emphasis on cleanliness. So beginning this summer, MTS is going to be installing these new tech-savvy trash cans at stations in downtown San Diego, as well as along the Blue Line trolley in the South Bay. And that'll help to keep our stations cleaner and our cleaning operation moving quicker. In total, there will be as many as 174 of these trash receptacles installed. So I too want to thank MTS staff for bringing this item forward today. I think it's a great example of listening to our riders and taking action based on that feedback to make positive changes on our transit system. So if there is no further discussion, then clerk, please call the roll.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
McCann,
Aye.
Donovan,
Yes.
Montgomery Step,
Yes.
Goble,
Yes.
Leyba Gonzalez,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Bastel,
Yes.
Bush is absent, Frank,
Yes.
Moreno,
Moreno, yes.
Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Campillo,
Yes.
Whitburn,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with 1 member absent.
Thank you, clerk. I don't think so. Okay. All right. That brings us to item number 13, which is the Pronto Online Reduced Fare Application Update. This is an informational item, and we will invite Leanne Powell and Stacy Bishop to present this item.
Good morning. My name is Leanne Powell, and I'm the Fare Systems Administrator for Pronto here at MTS. And I'm joined today with Stacy Bishop, our Manager of Marketing and Communications. This presentation will provide an update for the new online reduced fare application. During this update, we will provide the background of the project leading up to implementation. We'll discuss why we are now requiring proof of eligibility and introducing the application to our riders. We'll provide an overview of how the application works, and we'll report some of the preliminary results for the application process and share our outreach and communications plan. Let's move into the background. In the summer of 2021, the agency transitioned from Compass to Pronto. Pronto was implemented as the region's new fare collection system. Prior to Pronto, the agency's policy required verification of eligibility for all reduced fares, and proof of eligibility could only be provided in person. The online option was always a part of the plan for Pronto. However, the agency had a short timeline to transition riders from Compass to Pronto. All of our riders required new Pronto cards. In addition, several new reduced fare programs were introduced to include the Youth Opportunity Pass program. This resulted in a high demand for reduced fares. So to ensure that our riders in need of reduced fare programs were not overly impacted, the agency provided reduced fare status via the honor system. As we cleared the first year of the fare collection system, ensuring that it was working smoothly, we began focusing on developing the online application process. We received input from internal staff, riders, and we used beta testers to make adjustments and refine the user experience prior to the launch of the application. So why now? MTS is returning to requiring proof of eligibility for reduced fares. This will ensure that only eligible riders have access to reduced fare and free programs. This will keep transit fares low across the board. And for the riders, there are several benefits. The new option is a more flexible option. In the past, eligibility documentation for reduced fares could only be provided in person during select business hours and at select locations. The verification process is a one-time process for most riders. Youth will receive eligibility until their 19th birthday, and seniors indefinitely. Riders will also no longer have to travel with proof of identity. Examples of this include youth that had to travel with student ID cards and Medicare recipients that had to travel with their Medicare cards. Our fare inspectors and operators will have access to the photo of the rider when inspecting fares. One thing to note for anyone who does not prefer to use the online process or doesn't have access to the online process, verification is still available at the MTS Transit Store and our NCTD customer service centers. The online option is not replacing the in-person verification, it's only in addition to. So how does the application work? The application is available in both English and Spanish through the Ride Pronto website. Our riders will require 3 items to apply and complete 3 steps to completing the application. Our riders will need an email address, eligibility documentation or an ID, and a profile picture. The 3 steps to applying are logging on to the Ride Pronto website. The user will need to enter their personal information to include their name and birthday, and to upload their proof of eligibility documents. After the application is complete and submitted, there are 2 paths for approval. The first is the automatic approval process, and the second is the manual approval process. The automatic approval process is offered to youth 13 and older and seniors with a government-issued ID. These users are provided instant access to reduced fares. The manual process is offered to all other riders who are eligible for a reduced fare. In this case, the application is reviewed by a live agent from our Pronto support team and approved for a reduced fare. To anyone who's interested, a complete list of FAQs and a step-by-step tutorial video that provides live examples and illustrations can be found on the Pronto and MTS websites. So let's look at some of the preliminary results for the application. This slide represents 6 weeks of data. In 6 weeks, the agency has successfully verified over 1,400 reduced fare accounts since the launch of the application process in December. As of this morning, we have successfully verified over 1,500 online applications. The online application process is averaging about 240 successfully processed applications each week. This number is expected to grow as we transition from a soft launch to our riders to driving communication and outreach efforts. 83% of all applications submitted are successful. Some of the top reasons for unsuccessful applications include poor photo quality and missing or lack of documentation. And these unsuccessful applications are moved directly into the manual verification process, where a Pronto support team agent works with the users to collect the needed information and get that application approved for a reduced fare. 62% of the applications processed are given instant approval to a reduced fare, and the manual review period is taking less than 3 calendar days. The Pronto support team is on the receiving end of feedback provided by our riders. Overall feedback received has been positive and well received by not only our riders, but the agency's Pronto support team. The agency has yet to receive any negative complaints. The Pronto support team recently received a compliment from a visually impaired rider expressing gratitude. She stated she found it difficult to visit the transit store and always required someone to come with her in person to provide her proof of eligibility documents, and she was grateful for the option to submit online. And with that, I'll pass it over to Stacy for an update on the outreach and communications plan.
All right, thanks, everyone. So in discussing as we launch this application over the last 6 weeks, it has been a slower rollout. We have been really communicating just through our website, our email, and social media. And part of the reason that we did that was to really test the system to make sure that it worked in a real-time environment, to give our Pronto support team the opportunity to see what a normal workflow would be. And part of the reason that was so important is because we do have a big lift ahead of us, looking ahead to the next 5.5 months or so. In addition to any new applicants who need to go through the verification process, a majority of youth and senior disabled Medicare recipients have been given temporary access over the last 2 years. And that temporary access is set to expire on June 30th of this year. And so we do need to get everyone with temporary approval for a youth or SDM account to go through this verification process before June 30th in order to keep riding with those free or discounted fare programs. And so our best estimate is that this is about 36,000 active or more frequent riders. There's obviously caveats with that. We looked at riders who were riding about 2 to 3 times a month over a 6-month period on average. And there's caveats. The data we have before indicates that requests coming through, about 15% of them were for replacement cards or secondary cards for accounts. So there might be some duplication. There also may be levels of fraud that again, it's hard to estimate what that might be on the honor system, but to the best guess, we're looking at up to 36,000 kind of active accounts that are really high priority riders for us to get verified. And so anyone who doesn't go through the verification process by June 30th, the SDM or youth status on their card will be removed. And so they'll no longer have access to the free or reduced fares. And so this is not a comprehensive communication plan. I'm happy to speak more to other tactics if people have questions, but just wanted to highlight a few different strategies here. So obviously, partnering with local community groups and schools is going to be highly important. We'll have toolkits that are going out from a strictly educational perspective next week. We do have an application out to community-based organizations who are interested in helping us provide education to their communities about the process, but also to host on-site verification events. And so that's one of the big strategies that we have for this spring. For anyone who was around at the launch of Pronto last summer, we did pop-up events at transit centers and distributed tens of thousands of cards through that effort. And so we're going to be doing a similar process this spring. So we'll be hosting at least 10 events at our transit centers, essentially bringing the verification process to riders. So they don't have to go online. They don't have to go to the transit store. We'll verify them on the spot. But then also working with community partners, schools, to also go out to those locations that serve higher populations of youth, senior riders, riders with disabilities, et cetera. So that will be a big lift for our outreach and Pronto support team this spring. But then also one of the benefits of Pronto when we launched this system was the data that would be available to us. And so we're certainly leveraging Pronto data to also really target SDM and youth users. And so one of the things that we're able to do is we have pulled a list of the bus and trolley stops that youth and SDM riders use the most. And so we know the top locations where youth and seniors are riding. And so we'll be doing outreach events at those locations, but also printing out stop notifications. Since we have a lot of bus stops in the system. We also have been able to collect data for many of the people who used our temporary online form. So we have emails for tens of thousands of people that use that form. We have mailing addresses, so we'll be doing targeted email and mailing communications to people. We also can leverage the app, so we have the ability to do pop-up messaging in the Pronto app. So we'll also be sending communications there. And then again, it's not comprehensive of, we currently have messaging on board. Our fare inspectors, as was referenced, they have the ability to see if someone has gone through the process, if they have a photo on file when they're doing fare inspections. So code compliance inspectors and bus operators will also have business cards so that as they encounter riders who have not gone through the verification process over the next several months, to hand them direct communications as well. So just some of the pieces that we'll be doing. And again, we have about a 5.5, 6 month process for this. So we'll certainly be monitoring progress along the way to track how well we're making progress with those high users. So with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you both for the presentation this morning and for all your work on this. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do. Truth, please make your way to the podium.
All right, MTS approved a whole new card system, Compass to Pronto, without having every piece in place. That's actually ridiculous. I did not know that the Pronto reduced fare was an honor system, just like the whole trolley system. You guys are telling me I could have paid less instead of riding for free. Wow, you guys are funny, man. What a great business this is. It reminds me of the current intentionally broken immigration system, Sean. Seriously, though, that was very stupid to have this, along with allowing unaccompanied minors to ride for free. Those are both more examples of why people don't respect MTS on the whole. And so they don't pay because they have no respect. Why should they care? You don't care. So the presentation saying, why now? I actually had the same question, although because I've seen the budget depletion, I know the answer. Seniors ride at a reduced rate indefinitely. That's what was said. And that's not true because they're not going to live forever, just so you know. And if it's a youth rate, 18 and 19 aren't youth, they're adults. They should be paying, let's be real. Same applies to any potential extension to 24-year-olds. They're not youth. And there was only one feedback in that presentation. That is ridiculous. This is devolving quickly downward. My recommendation was actually to have the MTS fare compliance people have these reduced fare eligibility forms and the webpage on their phones open and on hand for every time they come across somebody who hasn't paid and introduce them to this program because maybe they qualify. I also recommend posters or signs with the links to the program posted up at every MTS stop and station. This should have been a one-time verification since the beginning. There should also be an annual verification to ensure a person is still qualified. Otherwise, there's potential for fraud. And you guys should consider an injury reduced rate because, hey, maybe I could really ride for free and not just go on the honor system, something to think about. Thank you.
The original DRA. Please unmute yourself now.
It's interesting that you want, the citizens of the county to go through all of these hoops to show proof of ID and all of that when we're allowing illegals that are invading our border to ride for free. It's very interesting because they can also ride a plane for free, but if anybody else does, they've got to be searched, they're cavity searched, and, they have to make sure that they have some type of verified ID. And that's what's so terrifying about this is that you're actually making them set up a whole profile with a photo. You're not doing that with all of the riders. But this is a way to track people and trace them and collect their data. And this is what China is doing. And it all involves a social credit score. It's just like, if they don't do something right, if they posted something online that the government didn't like, they can't, get gas or go to the doctor or get food. So, anytime we're putting anything into this system, eventually you're going to just tell people that they can scan their palm and go ahead and get through. This leads to the dystopian future that you guys are all laying out for us that China is actually experiencing. And it's because everything is, all the data is centralized. You have, you use your biometrics. You don't have to have your ID with you. It seems cool and all, but not when the system is set up to, keep you from doing things and punish you just for thinking about something that's different than what the government is saying.
30
So,
seconds left.
this is actually really terrifying to think about because you're going to be doing this across the board. It's going to come in everywhere. And, because then you can track people where they're going. And at some point, the social credit score will be brought in and you will say, well, you can't ride the trolley today. And that's what you guys all want us to get into this public transit, but you're going to make it so that it's impossible for people to live their lives. And so this is actually, terrifying. I wish people would wake up to the truth and see that we don't
Time
need
has
to be.
expired. That concludes public comment.
Thank you, Clerk. This is an informational item, so no motion is needed. We will now begin board discussion on this item. We'll start with Member Elo Rivera, and I also see Member Moreno.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Really glad to hear that there's already, a lot of thought going into the outreach here. The partnership with schools does seem especially important. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what that will look like?
Yes, and with that, we are working with schools. The process is basically we'll bring out members of our outreach and Pronto support team a day and time working with the schools to set up when they think students will have the most access. Students who have an existing Pronto card on their phone or physical card will bring us that card. If they don't have, we're also planning to have cards for students that don't have one already. They'll provide us with their birth date. And then we do have to take a photo of them for the system backend. And then essentially they're verified and their eligibility as a youth rider is set until they turn 19. So the caveat there is that in some initial discussions, some schools seem to have questions about their ability to allow us to collect birth date and photos. So we're working through that right now. But that's essentially the process that it'll be for any school that we work with, is really the student just needs to give us their birth date and then take a photo and they're verified.
And my 14-year-old was one of the beta testers, and like every teenager with technology, they figure it out really easily. I think I'm much worse at it than they are, but we're hopeful that we will get a lot of people who just want to do it by themselves because they're that savvy with tech.
Got it. So the other thing about I actually see some opportunity for promotion of the program through this process. It's another kind of bite of the apple in terms of letting, and I actually think it's pretty widely known at this point. Most of the young folks I talk to are happy to have this. They know that it's available to them. But it's another opportunity to let folks know that this is going on, that MTS has this program. We want them to participate in it. So I think even if there is going to be substantial interest in kind of doing it independently, if we can look at the dual benefits of doing the outreach, I'd certainly appreciate that. Similarly with our the Pronto Extend program, I think some of the CBO partners that we've worked with to ensure that former foster youth know that this is available to them. Anyway, if there's any way for my office to be helpful, we're happy to partner with you all. Again, I think this is not just an important program now, but a very, very important program for the long-term success of MTS. I know there's significant appreciation for and excitement for this program in the community, and I'm glad to see it continue to take hold. I do have just another follow-up question. In terms of the security of the data that will be received, can you all speak to that a little bit?
Perfect. Hi, my name is Israel Maldonado, Director of FER Technology and Operations. So security of data, very important to us. Our CRM, our customer relationship module that we work with is a Salesforce product, which is a global standard, global staple for managing customer information as well. Data is tokenized and is temporarily stored. When a case, as discussed, 60-some% are successfully automatically provided a reduced fare, the data is automatically deleted. For those that become cases, once the case is closed, the data is deleted within 30 days. So we have those precautions. Nothing is stored within the MTS servers. So we leverage a secure cloud-hosted solution.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Member Elo Rivera. We'll go to Member Moreno and then Vice Chair Goebel.
Thank you for the presentation. As most of you are aware, I'm a huge supporter of the Youth Opportunity Pass. And I believe it's been our best performing strategy to increase ridership in both the short term and the long term. I was very disappointed to be contacted by a constituent whose daughter had lost her physical Pronto card and was now trying to switch to a digital Pronto card on her phone. They were unable to do this online using the new system, despite calling repeatedly for assistance from the call center. They were told that they need a student ID, California ID, or passport to verify the age. But after using a laptop and the new system to take a picture of the ID and then a picture of the minor, the system just froze and couldn't proceed. They were instructed to ask for assistance in person, and the only location offered was the transit store here at 12th and Imperial. Luckily for them, they live in the northern part of my district. They actually live somewhere in the Grant Hill Sherman Center. I'm sorry, not Sherman Center, Sherman area. They do not live in San Isidro. So getting to the transit store at 12th and Imperial was easy for them. They went, and a very kind customer service representative helped them out. However, it is my concern that had they lived in Otay Mesa, Nestor, or San Isidro, going in person to the transit store would have not been so convenient. This process seems unnecessarily cumbersome and far too reliant on technology that may not work and would require an in-person visit to the transit center. Is it staff's contention that this cumbersome process is required by the regional fare ordinance?
The certification is really something that I believe MTS can do unilaterally. And that is, the goal was to put in place a certification process because we want to make sure that the eligibility is for those who are truly eligible for the benefit. And that's why we are trying to use this time to tweak the system to make it even smoother and easier to deal with. And that is what we've been working towards. And obviously we're looking towards the summer as a time when we want everybody to be using the system. But obviously we will monitor this and see if we need to extend that period of time. Not knowing your constituents' direct personal experience, we can't really tell you what happened with that particular individual. But if you give us that information, we will track it down, and that could help us improve the system.
Thank you. So this process is not anywhere stipulated in the regional fare ordinance. This isn't something that the ordinance states that we need to do. This was just taken upon by city staff, or I'm sorry, MTS staff to implement.
I can answer that. I mean, so the process that we go through to verify eligibility is not laid out anywhere in that document, but the regional fare ordinance does say that those discounts are limited to people of specific ages, or when it relates to the disabled Medicare, to that thing. So there is a certain presumption that MTS will go through some process to make sure that only eligible people for those discounts are using them, but it's up to MTS to decide what that process is.
I was gonna offer myself to, ask Sandag to make an amendment to the Youth Opportunity Pass ordinance, but being that this is an internal process that we've developed, or that staff has developed. I'm curious to know, how many youth have successfully completed youth opportunity pass verification using this new system compared to, last December?
Yeah, so we don't have the data for last December, and our ability to see insights of SDM versus youth users in the automatic process is fairly limited, but from the manual verification process, so that would apply to any youth that is under the age of 13 or any youth that doesn't have basically a passport, driver's license, anything like that. About 80% of those manual cases, which is, doing the math right now, about 450 youth riders have been able to go through the manual verification process, based on my rough math. And then there's some that would also be added through the automatic process, which is the majority of approvals. We just don't know how many youth are.
So we don't have data from how many folks we had with youth opportunity passes last December?
So last December, I don't have it with me. I can tell you from basically the comparable November through December before this application launched. So the immediate 5 weeks prior, we had, sorry, my computer's, we had about 1,900 youth who submitted a request from November 1st through December 5th. And that is one of, I think, the discussion items. We don't have a way to know if those people are actually youth. So our previous online form did see about almost twice as many applications on a weekly basis compared to this application. But because people aren't required to provide proof of eligibility, and I don't know that we're doing many proof of eligibility checks on board, we don't really have an understanding of what level of fraud is or isn't occurring. So roughly it's about twice as many applications were submitted before. Again, unsure if those were eligible users or not, just with that caveat.
Got you. And can you go to slide 11? Did I get this right? The system only works 62% of the time, according to this slide?
%62% of the applications received of the 1,400 successful applications were approved through the automatic approval process. They were given instant approval to a reduced fare.
Okay, and what happened to the rest of the folks?
So
38%?
83% of the applications received, of the unsuccessful applications, those applications were moved into the manual verification process.
So they're gonna have to come over here.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
A Pronto support agent will reach out and start working with the submitted application to request a better photo or missing documentation. There are a percentage of applications, though, that are not executed or abandoned. So I believe we still have to collect the data on the completed submitted that were denied, and then the abandoned or unexecuted applications.
Got you. Well, thank you for this information. And I think this information allows us to really see what's going on with our system. As I said, I'm a strong supporter of the Youth Opportunity Pass. I was the chair of the equity working group at Sandag, who helped pass this. So it is very near and dear. But I don't want an overly cumbersome process to deter qualified youth from using the youth opportunity passes to ride transit. I am very concerned with what I'm hearing and what I read. It sounds like we're trying to deter people from getting this pass. There's nothing in the ordinance that stipulates we have to do this. And I will say, if I was, a mom, well, I am a mom, but my daughter's only 16 months old, but I don't know if I'd want her coming up to 12th and Imperial, by herself, to get verified. So either we need to get more verification stations out in the community, or we just need to make this an easier process, which I think it would be better just to make this an easier process. It's my understanding at the San Francisco Muni, youth don't need a pass at all. And also in Germany, youth don't need a pass at all, Munich, Germany. So I would like to have staff develop some type of streamlining process to bring to the board for consideration. My nieces and nephews, although they are tech savvy, I could assure you that they'll just be paying if they can't, ride for free, or if it makes it very cumbersome for them to get a youth opportunity pass. And I would venture to think that there are a lot of families out there that are just, paying out of pocket, which is exactly the opposite of what we intended and what the monies that we have from Sandag, it runs against the ethos, I think, of the youth opportunity passes. So very concerned. I want to put that on the record. And I would like a streamlining process and something that's a little bit more easier. Thank you. That concludes my comments, Chair.
Thank you, Member Moreno. We'll go to Vice Chair Goebel and then Member Dillard and then Chair Pro Tem Montgomery Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Three questions I think the public might have, so they're some of them pretty easy. What happens when a youth opportunity pass becomes 19 years old? Is their pass deactivated, or do they have to, what happens?
Yeah, so with this system, again, we put in their birth date, and so the system knows that let's say someone turns 19 on March 15th. At the end of that month, at the end of March, starting in April, their card account is an adult fare, and so then they will have to pay for the full fare. So the system automatically shuts off the youth access.
The system shuts off the youth free access is what I'm hearing. That's
It
fine.
just- It
That's
just
good.
reverts the card from a youth to an adult. It changes the fare category.
But as a youth, you get it free. So now you have to start paying if they were riding on the trolley and were asked for fare evidence that the free pass wouldn't be there anymore once they turn 19. The system wouldn't recognize it.
Correct.
Just trying to find the system. The eligibility says Medicare, not Medi-Cal. Why not Medi-Cal?
It flows from the federal requirements. I actually personally don't know the exact difference between Medicare and Medi-Cal, so I can go back and find that out and get back to you. But the program itself flows from federal requirements, ties it to the Medicare, and I think there's a state statute, which I just don't have on the top of my head, that then also says if you are getting certain Medicare or Social Security benefits, then you automatically qualify. So I believe that's what it's from, but I'd have to go back and double check. But the requirements flow from state and federal statutes.
Okay.
And from a messaging perspective, we just put it in there because people get confused, and we'll try to provide Medi-Cal documents. So we just try and provide that clarification for people.
Yeah, I think you can be under 65 and get Medi-Cal due to income levels perhaps. But I think to get Medicare, you have to be at least 65, I think is the age. So that could be it. Finally, my question is, what about a person with a temporary disability? Currently, the list shows a DMV placard, which kind of implies you wouldn't be a senior, but you could have a disability that you're eligible for a placard. What if it's a temporary disability? My daughter was in an auto accident 25 years ago. She got a temporary blue placard, but she doesn't need it forever. She still gets it 25 years later. We send it back and she can still send it. We send it back. Do temporary disabilities qualify?
Yeah, so with anyone who qualifies based on a disability or Medicare, their approval documents will have a date of expiration, which is what our Pronto support team puts in as the date of validity. So the documents will have that. People can also go through a process through their doctor can submit a form to MTS that MTS would review or approve, or MTS access riders, and that eligibility is set for, I believe, 3 years or 5 years. So temporary eligibility is based on the date that's provided in the eligibility document.
I think the key is people can get a note from their doctor, because if you can imagine somebody who broke their knee or has knee surgery and can't drive, they'll be recovered perhaps in a year, but they need to use transit because they can't do it themselves. You're saying a note from the doctor will suffice. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, there's a form that doctors complete and then our team reviews it and will approve or deny it.
Good news. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Goebel. Member Dillard.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I appreciate all the information. I just had a few questions as well. In regards to the Youth Opportunity Pass you had talked about the cards that the children will hold when traveling, right? What if they lose their card? How can they quickly get another one? Maybe it's right in the middle of the week and they have to go to school.
Yeah, so once someone's verified, we do have a replacement process where I believe your first replacement card is free. And that request can be made through in their account on ridepronto.com. You can report a card or lost is stolen and request fulfillment. You can also request that through the Pronto support team over the phone or the transit store in person.
And what's the turnaround time?
5 to 10 business days for mailing.
So what does the child do?
The other option is if students they can get a card. It does have a $2 fee, but they can get a card at the retail network or at a ticket vending machine and go through that replacement. They can say, I have a card, here's my new card, and their youth status would be transferred over to the new card.
Okay, and then I'm challenged with the retail network. Is it easier or could it be, I don't know if one of the areas where people have access to apply for the card includes places like the library or something that would be more versatile. You know, Member Marino talked about that, having access if you don't conveniently are nearby, you know, a location where they can actually get some help. Is there any other entity that we're able to allow someone to come in and get help without traveling, you know, a long ways to try to get help, especially if they don't have a pass for whatever reason?
Not at this time, and not for the general public. One of the next steps, we're working with our consultant who helps us with the system to develop a scope to look at allowing organizations like schools to do the verification on behalf of their students. So that's not a current iteration, but it is something that we're looking at building out a scope to add a new function that would allow social service providers or schools to set up an account and then to do the eligibility process for their clients, but that currently does not exist.
But we have the whole Pronto support team on the phone, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they can get assistance that way. They don't have to come down to the transit store. And then they can also use this verification app as well. But the point of the matter is we want to find out, why was this person sent to the transit store? If we could find that out, if we could talk with them, that would be very helpful and instructional for us, because those are the outliers that we're trying to figure out. How do we help them?
Yeah, and just to clarify one point, and so we can certainly, I know Amanda's listening in, so I'm sure she'll review that with her team. But we do have a policy that for within this next 6 months, basically before June 30th, anyone that needs immediate access to an SDM or youth card who can't use the online application, or maybe they have to go through the manual process and they can't wait the 3 days or whatever it is, that Pronto support will give them the temporary access through June 30th over the phone, and then just do the education with them that you have the temporary access and you need to take a step before June 30th to verify it. But so anyone that has that need, that they can't wait the 3 days for manual approval, Pronto support will give them that through June 30th.
Okay, thank you. And just to verify the senior citizen, is it 55 or 65? What's the limit?
65 with a
Okay.
caveat that people born on or before September 1st, 1959 also qualify, because those people were grandfathered in under our 60 and under policy before Pronto.
So it is 65.
65, yeah.
Okay, all right. And then in regards back to the lost card process or whatever, instead of that, say they receive their card and they're 8 or 9, and several years later they're 15, 16. Is there a process that's put in place to ever request an update of the picture on the card?
Not at the moment, but it's definitely something that we're looking to adjust. So as the program evolves, as we gather feedback from the community, as we gather feedback from the board, it's not just set a feature and forget it. It's really rinse, repeat, enhance it, rinse, repeat, and improve it over time. So all the feedback that we gather, we really want to speak to the customer that we heard from today from our board. The goal is to keep improving the system. So that, rest assured, that's something that we'll definitely look into as well.
Very good, thank you. And you said that the system will automatically shut off someone who has become of age 19. And is there an automatic reminder to that potential person who may not be paying attention or remember that it's going to expire? Is there going to be any notification allowing them, 6-month range or 3-month range or whatever, that their card will expire at the end of June or whatever?
Sure. And again, the system is very flexible. I believe there is a notification for all sorts of transactions. We will go back and confirm this specific notification and give you an update. And we will fine tune and give alerts proactively to ensure that customers, that we can mitigate the impact to our customers.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation and everything, your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Dillard. Chair Pro Tem Montgomery Stott.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. A couple of quick questions. One on the slide that is up. I just want to verify that the 1,400, now 1,500 as of this morning or so, accounts that have been successfully verified, is that, does 83% equate to the 1,500? Which meaning are there about 17% that are denied?
Yeah, so I could give you some more specific numbers.
Okay.
So as of yesterday, we had a total number of attempts of just over 1,800. Of those 1,800, 1,500 of them were just over 1,500 of them were approved. And so it does include some pending cases. Pronto support will keep open manual cases for 10 business days. So let's say someone submits a photo and it's blurry, or, one of the common, we're learning language profile pictures, we're getting side profile pictures. So we'll work with those people too. So that does include a small portion of cases that are still open, and to be determined on if they're will be successful or closed.
So if a case is closed in 10 days because the proper verification did not come through the system, can someone reopen a case before June 30th?
From a technical perspective, I believe once the case is closed, it's closed, but we can create a new case based on to answer your question, yes, we can follow up on that same case materials.
Okay, I think that if there's not anything in the system to let people know that, there should be. Because if someone gets denied, I think especially for the YOP, well, for both of them, then the ability for them to be able to reapply, I think is very important, even if it opens up a new case, because sometimes, and is it 10 calendar days or business days?
10 business days, I believe that it's open.
Correct.
And so, yes, people can still submit the same card number for verification if it hasn't been verified already.
Okay, and just, I know that you all are doing this, but for our purposes to just keep very specific data as to why people are being denied is very important. And that would also just goes into my next question around the CBO outreach. What is the expectation of the CBOs? Is it just simply to let people know in their areas of influence that there is a deadline? Is it to provide feedback to the agency? What is the expectation of the CBOs?
Yeah, so it's a little bit flexible in the application as to what their programs are. So we allow them, if they have like an ambassador or promotora program and they do like door-to-door education and flyering, if they have standards, services like a food drop and they drop a flyer in, if they want to actually host an event for MTS to come on site and organize an event for us to attend to. So there is some flexibility depending on what the CBO's capabilities are and how they want to support. They could do, virtual education, so there's a little bit of flexibility in what that looks like based on their structure. We certainly do collect feedback from them and ask them kind of like what language is missing, like where are people getting hung up in the process, what issues are they encountering. So we do check-ins because they provide, hours for rates and stuff. And so providing us that feedback loop in terms of where there's trouble spots is part of it. But
let me say this, I think that this is one of a very good thing that MTS has done in our progression over the years, right, is to engage with CBOs and have them get information out to our communities. I do want to know what is the expectation of the CBOs, right? Like how, are we monitoring how many people they're contacting and the ways that they're contacting folks? How does that work?
Yeah, so we do ask them to do reporting. It's a little bit different this time around. Before, what they would do is when we did this with the launch of Pronto, they reported how many cards they distributed at each event, or we were tracking it because we had allocated a certain number of cards to them. It's a little bit harder when it's purely educational. They can track the number of flyers or hours conducted during outreach. If they host like a virtual event, we'll ask them to report out how many people attended. Obviously, if it's an in-person event, we'll help track that and see how many on-site verifications that we did. So the ones where they're hosting events, it's a little bit easier to tell how many. Other than that, it's a lot of like how many hours were spent out. And we do ask them to estimate how many people they spoke to at an event.
Okay, that's fine. It's not, folks are doing their thing out there, and it's been very fruitful. And we've seen that as an agency. So just the last question is about the application deadline of January 31st. How are we getting the word out to our CBOs that this application deadline is coming up so quickly?
Yeah, so they have an email, and we did a training with a lot of community-based organizations and schools in December to give them a demonstration of the online application, talk them through how it works, give them some information about this transition, and gave them a heads up. So we took a list of people that specifically said that they wanted to receive that and apply. And so we have put it in our communications to them. It's on the application. And if there's people that we know are interested that haven't applied, we'll do follow-ups with them. Or what we've done in the past is if we don't feel like we have adequate applications for coverage in our area, we can extend the deadline. But we've had a few touch points with people that are interested.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem. Any further board discussion? Member Bush.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments from my colleagues. I agree with a lot of them. And particularly Member Moreno. I just found that that the process was difficult when I tried to apply myself for my kids about a year and a half ago. To be honest, I don't remember, I didn't pick it back up and do it again. We haven't had, the needs was just something that fell off. So I was probably out of those 62%, I was in that percentage that just got frustrated and kind of gave up. That's my fault too. So I wasn't diligent, and I can be more diligent about going back to it. But for me, just my personal experience, I found it a little cumbersome. And so I would like us to, still try to, streamline this and make it as efficient and easy to apply as possible. My question is, in terms of enforcement, so if there is youth that are getting on these buses, because this was actually the situation for me when I took my kids, rode with them on the bus to school. The Pronto card, I was in the application process, so it didn't work, but the bus driver was nice and just let us get on. So what is our kind of practice, our policy with enforcement? Are we denying youth that don't have this Pronto card?
Between now and June 30th, it should be flexibility. It's education, flexibility. To that effect, I know it was mentioned during the presentation, but there's comms cards that are going to be distributed to fair enforcement, to bus operators, to pass out to customers that perhaps aren't familiar with the process of what's coming, where to go, where to look. So it's education, flexibility.
Okay, so then no, the answer is no, right? We're not barring or prohibiting youth from coming onto the system, either bus or trolley?
We shouldn't.
No, Mike, you can probably speak to that. On the bus in particular.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really more of an educational thing at this point.
Mike Wygant, Chief Operating Officer here at San Diego MTS. Good morning. Yeah, it's education. Unless there's some other thing going on, they're creating, an impact to the other customers or safety.
Yeah.
The operators are directed to inform, and then if there's a disruption, then they call security.
Okay, no, that's good, because I just want to make sure that we're not, and even after June 30th, I would still recommend that we still have flexibility for youth, because for me, it's more important that we get our youth in the habit of taking transit and riding more so than I understand the importance of the Pronto card in terms of, tracking and data and all that. So I support that. I just don't think that and the kind of the bureaucracy tied to it should take precedent over having youth ride transit. That's the most important part, and that was the intent of the program. So it's good. I think we're in the right direction. There's just some things we need to tweak and some systems we need to, still work on. But in terms of the enforcement, this is good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bush. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, very good dialogue. And again, thank you for the presentation, the work that you're doing on this. It seems reasonable to have a system that ensures that program users are eligible for the program, but certainly don't want that system to discourage eligible users from taking advantage of the program either. Would you be able to, you've heard the questions from the board, in the interests of the board, would you be able to provide us with an update in 2 or 3 months as we collect more data to let us know how things are going?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you again for the presentation. That is an informational item, so no motion is needed. We will move on now to item 14, which is for Chair, Board Member, and CEO communications. We'll start with public comment on this item. Since this is a communications item, we'll do 1 minute of public comment if there is any, Clerk.
We do. Truth, please make your way to the podium.
Heck yeah, MTS minute. Here we go. Sharon did not go anywhere on the MTS taxpayer dime. Why not? Because in reality, she should be at the Sandag board meetings, if nothing else, for the wonderful entertainment that's provided for free. They even use taxpayer money to buy themselves catering from both the deli and the corner bakery cafe, which I've actually tried. I'm VIP. Sharon approved about $125,000 for ABC GC for CCO 2 Mill Security Office, which I'm pretty sure I just went through. And that's, like I said, man, fun experiences. And they're not the most experienced security I've ever been through. And she approved over $43,000 to Kleinfelder for SDSU smoke. And I'm concerned about what that actually means. There's also tons of office supplies, as always. And at least with government, that tends to be one of the biggest areas of fraudulent spending. From December 7th, 2023 to January 9th, 2024, I estimated that MTS spent about $31,000 just on office supplies. That doesn't even
Your time
include
has
furniture or
expired.
equipment.
The original DRA, please unmute yourself now.
Yeah, I mean, basically anything you guys do is all fraudulent, but what you should be doing is sharing with the people what your report is, because what you guys tend to do is, if people want to come on to want to watch one of these meetings or just listen to it, because you can't really watch it, you're not providing them with information just to be able to see what's going on a lot of times. And especially with things like closed session, you'll tend to pretend to report back, but it's always, there's nothing to report back, but you've been back there for however many hours. So, it's interesting because any of these reports are just showing who you're in bed with, and it's not what the people want. It's what basically the UN and China and, the World Economic Forum, all of them want. So yeah, good on you guys.
That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. Let's turn to communications. We're going to begin with Member Leyva Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Sharon and MTS staff for arranging the meeting with myself, our mayor, our city manager in regards to the Rapid 227 issues that are continuing on. The whole reason why I sit on this board is to make sure I get the messages and translate what each resident, the issues that they have, and I'm their voice. Like we have a resident here, my fellow rookie brother, Jared there commented, one of the big issues that was brought up yesterday at yesterday's city council meeting is the ridership information. So it's very important that we try to focus on the ridership that's within our city, because each and every resident that came to the council meeting last night and expressed their views, all these buses that are going through our city at very short increments of time are all empty. So it kind of brings up the whole point is, why is the bus even in existence? I know that upon it starting and where it starts and then where it stops at Iris, there's a lot more riders, but through our 27,000 resident small coastal community, it's very difficult to rationalize why it's in existence. And I appreciate the fact that flyers and are being mailed out this week in regards to moving it from 3rd over to 9th. But like Jared had stated, and a lot of residents, it could pose additional issues which could prolong this whole process. I just hope that we could expedite to provide the information to the residents, so prior to next council meeting, we could show them the data that's needed to show the ridership, because that's a big issue. Thank you very much, and I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you, Member Leyva Gonzalez. Vice Chair Goebel.
Thank you, Chair. I have a great story for a great start to this new year. In El Cajon, we have a village of 6 small emergency cabins at a site. They host women and women with small children. In the 9 months that we've gone through, we've helped place, we've served 19 women and 13 children. It's a partnership between Home Start, the city, Amicus, the builder, and the site host, who I don't want to name for privacy reasons at this time. One of those people that is a graduate of this program is now an MTS driver. So now she has the pay, the benefits, and a better place to live. Great story.
That is a great way to start the new year. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Vice Chair Goebel. Member Hall.
Mine's just a quick request. I was wondering if we could have an update on the technology, the upgrades for this. I'm noticing people still having trouble pushing on the mics. Present.
Well, I can just tell you that the RFP is going out, I believe, this week. Or if it's not already out, to try to get the technology improvements.
Okay. Thank you very much, Member Hall. Any further board member communications? All right. Seeing none, we are going to move into closed session shortly. Before we do that, do we have any public comment on the closed session agenda?
We do. Truth, please make your way to the podium.
All right, let me hold you guys up for as long as possible. Let me see if I can stall. Item 16, I'm hoping this is a lawsuit from Logan Nelson, the 20-year-old who was punched and then knocked unconscious with a bottle while on his ride home from work on the trolley. Very safe, all that perception. Or I hope it's a lawsuit from the 21-year-old who was slashed in the chest with a knife while he was on his way home from work on the trolley. There might be a pattern here. Or I hope it's a lawsuit from the other 82 people who were assaulted in 2022. How many were assaulted last year? I'm surprised I wasn't. Who needs perceptions when we've got realities? Subterfuge, Steve. And I can guarantee I'll sue if anything does happen to me, so you better get that security in check. And item 17. Narcissus Nathan is the parasite that never goes away. Kind of like Schadenfreude Sean, which thanks to Michael Brando, I learned a new word. Always take, never give, and always blame others, never take responsibility for his own mistakes. Apparently, Nathan even expects people to foot his $10,000 legal bills as if he didn't steal enough from the people as it is. He's actually the reason why the Board of Supervisors meetings have disruptions. It's his fault. He created that toxic environment that I would love to fix, and it's very difficult. Long story short on this case, Gracia is an actor. Nathan was a bad actor, and this whole show is getting very old. Here's my sign. This applies to Nathan, and it also applies to MTS. It even applies to Sandak. It's so universal. Stop right where you are. Stop what you're doing. I'm tired of all of the nonsense. Thank you. Have a good day.
The original DRA, please unmute yourself now.
Yeah, it's a wonder what the item 16 is, because there's no information, of course, but the things that you guys do always sets up for litigation, and the people have to pay for it. But the whole Nathan Figueroa shenanigans, it's kind of like Sandag with the toll roads. Once it comes out in the press, then you want to address it, but you guys were working really hard to keep this under wraps and try and pay her off. So it's no wonder that there is litigation going on, just regardless of what he did. But it's just going to cost the people money, and it's unfortunate because you didn't want to address the fact when it was brought to you, and Nathan has other victims that have come forward. So it's just interesting to see what people will do when they know that somebody is corrupt and try and hide it. And that's what happens across the boards. And again, then the people have to pay for your nefarious actions. Because if you were to address things in a reasonable amount of time, instead of trying to always brush stuff under the rug and, not bring it out into the light, it causes more issues. And we're the ones that pay the price for that, because you guys aren't, being held accountable personally, not yet anyway. Right. So it's like you don't care necessarily what you do because it's not coming out of your pocket. but the people care, and you guys need to stop doing stuff like that and trying to hide stuff and brush it under the rug and be more
Your time
transparent.
has expired. That concludes public comment, Chair.
Thank you, Clerk. The next Board of Directors meeting is scheduled for February 8th at 9 o'clock in the morning. At this time, we will move into closed session. Thank you.
All right, reporting out of closed session. Item number 16, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2 and E5, one potential case. The board received a report from legal counsel and gave instructions. For item number 17, closed session conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, the Gracia Figueroa versus Nathan Fletcher case. The board received a report from legal counsel and gave instructions.
This meeting is now adjourned.